All right. Hello, class.
Hi.
All right, so I'm gonna play this video for you guys, and I'm gonna want you to answer that first set of questions. I'm not gonna read what you write. I have it kind of set off on my screen so where I can't really see what you're writing. So then we can just have a little discussion about it when you're done and when the video is done. So without further ado, here we go.
Your choice couldn't be more important. Our candidate is in flattering light and full bright color. Their candidate is in grainy eye contrast, black and white, spotted through a telephoto lens from behind a bush, coming back from God only knows where. Our guy points at the horizon and holds a baby. Their guy doesn't have a baby. Their guy has a golf club. The voiceover for our guy was calm, measured, bright. Their guy gets the lower register, and sometimes we slow down. Our guy has clean headlines and the beautiful lens flare America needs. Here's a scary grab over a photo of their guy awkwardly laughing. Snap zoom. You want a snap zoom like that in office? Here's a photo of our guy saluting military veterans. Jump cuts, flashes, step, aggressive colors. You can't trust a guy with graphics like this. Our guy gets stock footage of sunrises and an American flag. Their guy's flag is upside down and on fire. Intercut with overdue bills, war, the crying baby. Our guy gets doctors and astronauts and stimulus checks, flatline, an eagle, hurricane, the Statue of Liberty, crime scene tape, Ronald Reagan, a girl running in a wheat field to escape a dangerous sexual predator, building atomic bomb. This election, the choice is yours, their guy or our guy. Inspiring.
All right, so how's the volume on that? Was that fine? That wasn't like
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that was good for me.
All right, so the first thing I kind of want to ask about that ad or that spoof of political ads is, what ads have you guys seen recently relating to the coming election that kind of that makes you think of? Have you seen any? I know I've seen some on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Every time I get on.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of them doing that where they spend most of the time bashing the other side, the majority of it. And then by the end, they're like, oh, by the way, this is for so-and-so. You should vote for them, not the person that we talked about for 2 minutes.
Well, and it's also like, it's about these big dynamic like shifts, like this guy thinks this, which then means this, which then means this. Where our guy's like, I'm gonna save the day. And it's like they use that tonage, right? They go down in tone when it's about the bad guy, they go up and then it's like it's all about the character and these big inspiring things, but also like, oh, this guy's gonna destroy all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
In general, would you say that video is pretty descriptive of political ads, attack ads, at least in general, that you've seen?
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
Yep.
Yeah, I like how exaggerant they are in that one because I feel like it's very relatable to what it's like now.
Yeah, there's definitely
so exaggerated.
Yeah, I definitely remember seeing the like super radical left Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are with Rashida Tlaib and AOC. They want to take down private health care, and it's like Joe Biden didn't want to do any of those things, and trust me, the left knows that.
In the last little bit of this bell ringer sort of thing, is if you were running for president, how would you use media? Would you use attack ads? Would you use it to promote your vision of what the country should be? Would you do both? Would you, what route do you think would be best for you to take?
There's a lot.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot to think about.
I mean, on one hand, it's easy to say that you would never, attack your opponent, but
out of the equation, you can't just not address their needs.
Yeah.
but you can't keep, I don't know, I wouldn't want to lie so much, but I also to a point have to lie, you know, to be relatable, because I'm not, you know, I'm not everybody. I don't have my foot in.
I'm losing you. Or Josh, are you losing Caitlin there?
Yeah, I'm losing Caitlin.
Caitlin, I can't hear you.
Caitlin, I lost you.
Oh no!
You're back. What are you pressing?
Go ahead.
Stop pressing.
Can you guys hear me now? Is it better sounding now with the headphones or no?
Let's keep this rolling because we only got a half hour.
Yeah, go.
Okay.
Stay on task. All right.
So yeah, if I was running for president, how would I use mass media? Just real quick, it would be, I would probably do those character ads, and I would try to use like big ideas to go with it. I try to be less negative, but if I was running against Donald Trump, I can guarantee I would be slamming him on everything I could, because he's just
in general, do you think
needs his own detriment. Go ahead.
in general, do you think you would be able to win an election without attack ads? Do you think running a completely positive campaign would be feasible? Do you think you'd have a chance?
I guess when I think about a positive campaign, I think about Obama in 2008. I feel like Obama had one of the cleaner campaigns. I think he definitely didn't attack as much. I'm sure there were attack ads that were run.
Yeah.
But I'm certain that him and even John McCain, like, they both had more of a civil discourse of respect. Where I think Donald Trump, he just doesn't have respect as part of his discord towards his opponents. And because he doesn't respect his opponents, I don't think in a campaign against Donald Trump, you could go without attack ads, because he's going to attack you on too many things and you have to clarify. And he also is messed up in big ways, and you need to, because he's so exaggerated and exuberant that you need to be able to counter that to have any chance against him, to get the truth through, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, today's entire lesson is going to be on the election of 1828. And so by the end of this lesson, I'm going to want you guys to be able to identify and describe the issues that were going on in 1828, what the stances were of the candidates. I'm going to need you to be able to compare Andrew Jackson's use of media to the way modern politicians use it, and you'll see that it can be very similar in many ways. And I also will hope that you guys will be able to assess the general role of populism in American politics. And populism is essentially the ideology that you should appeal to the masses, try to play to the average man's wants and needs. And so without further ado, we're going to segue into the presentation. And I don't like how they have it laid out, so I'm going to start in the middle here. I think it's this one. So why did we see an explosion of populism in 1828? Well, the simple answer really is that before 1828, elections were decided by aristocrats. They were decided by landed elites. You needed property and you needed to be a white man in order to be able to vote. But between 1824 and 1828, we see many states switching over to popular votes for electing candidates. We see lots of election reform bills going through, which essentially abolished the property requirements. So now all of a sudden, you have a huge class of poor whites who are now suddenly able to vote. And many of these whites don't have any formal education or very little formal education. And they know very little about government, what government is supposed to do, what it, all that sort of stuff. And you see the voting population pretty much tripled in that 4 years. And so you're going to see candidates trying to take advantage of this and trying to play to popular support, because now all of a sudden the average American is important, whereas before nobody really put much thought into what the average American wanted or needed. Right. And that leads us to a couple of the main issues that came up in 1828. So here, let me full screen this. I don't know why I have it not full screen. All right. So a couple of the major issues. Slavery was a huge one. You got to remember at this time we were dealing with westward expansion, trying to keep a balance between slave state and free states. So that was a huge issue at this point. And also, as we discussed, the issue of the last few years was political patronage. Who should we allow to participate in American democracy? And so John Quincy Adams, who was the incumbent, he was president, he won in 1824, he opposed both expansion of slavery and political patronage. You'll know if you watch the movie Amistad with, we probably watched it before, it's about the slave ship. John Quincy Adams vehemently opposed slavery. He did not think it was, he didn't think it made America look very good on the world stage. And so he wanted to oppose its expansion to the West. But he also, on the other hand, opposed expanding political patronage. He did not want poor people, poor, ill, uneducated people to be able to vote. He did not want them to have a say in politics because the unchecked will of the masses, according to him, was dangerous. It was a dangerous thing, and he wanted no part in it. And Andrew Jackson essentially took the exact opposite stance on both of those issues. He wanted political patronage. He himself was born into a poor family and he built his own wealth. So he came from a poor, uneducated background. And so he wanted people like him to have a say in democracy. And he also supported the expansion of slavery, as slavery is one of the ways in which he was able to build his wealth. And his support of these two things gained him a massive amount of support amongst the lower and middle classes in the West and the South, even the mid-Atlantic. Really the only place where John Quincy Adams had a strong hold was in the Northeast, really. And so let's just take a look at the candidates. Andrew Jackson, he was a Democratic Republican. I already said he's a man, he billed himself as a man of the people. He was born poor, he was a war hero. He fought in the War of 1812. He famously won the Battle of New Orleans, and he really jacked and played that up to gain political power, because everybody knows there's nothing quite like a war hero that gets poor and middle class white guys, going. So he played that side very heavily. He played up his role. He played up his image as a war hero. And you'll see that later when I show you some of the campaign songs. And he also made use of rallies and tactics aimed at gathering support and building support among lower class people. Rallies, barbecues, short slogans, like catchy slogans that even illiterate people can understand. And rallies were huge. He had parades, he had giant parties, and people loved it. Poor people went nuts for these parties. And he ended up spending in that $500,000 in the 1828 money, which is probably in the several millions, on literally just press, promoting himself, getting his image out there as a working class hero, and also demonizing our other candidate, the incumbent, John Quincy Adams, who was a national Republican, and he was an aristocrat, and he was very disconnected from the average American populace. He was rich. He was the son of John Adams, so he was from a rich, powerful family. He was very well educated, and he acted like it. He had very sophisticated tastes and manners, and he did not want to hold rallies. He did not want to court the favor of the lower classes because he felt it was beneath his station in life. While Jackson was constantly using political campaigns to paint him as a monarch, a pimp for the Russian Tsar, which is something that you can probably relate to today with Donald Trump. That's an attack that people have lobbied at him with Putin pretty often. And this kind of led to a poor public image because people just didn't really get him. You know, he didn't know how to win the support of the average person. Okay. And this brings us to the role that media played in the election. Um, the big one is songs. Songs were essentially the early 19th century version of campaign ads. Now, let me play a couple for you right now, just so you can see what I'm talking about. So this one is Andrew Jackson's official campaign song. I actually think it's kind of catchy. Just listen if you time to spare one and rehearse what you see. And for the opportunity, conceive yourself quite lucky. For 'tis not often that you see a hunter from Kentucky, oh Kentucky, the hunters of Kentucky, oh Kentucky, the hunters of Kentucky. We are a hardy, free-born race, each man to fear a stranger. Whate'er the game, we join in chase, despising time and danger. And if the daring foe annoys, whate'er his strength and forces, we'll show him that Kentucky boys are alligator horses. Oh Kentucky, the hunters of Kentucky. Oh Kentucky, the hunters of Kentucky. I suppose you read it in the Prince how Pakenham attempted to make old Hickory Jackson win, but soon his team repented. For we with rifles ready cocked for such occasion lucky, and soon around the general flock the hunters of Kentucky, oh Kentucky, the hunters of Kentucky, oh Kentucky, the hunters of Kentucky. You've heard, I suppose, how New Orleans is famed for wealth and beauty. There's girls of every hue, it seems, from snowy white to sooty. So Pakenham, he made his brag, if he in fight was lucky, he'd have their girls and cotton bags in spite of old Kentucky, oh Kentucky, the hunters of Kentucky, oh Kentucky, the hunters of Kentucky. But Jackson, he was wide awake and was not scared at trifles, for well he knew what aim we take with our Kentucky rifles. So he led us down to Cypress Swamp, the ground was low and mucky. There stood John Bull in martial pop, and here was old Kentucky, oh Kentucky, the hunters of Kentucky, oh Kentucky, the hunters of Kentucky. Our bank was raised to hide our dress, not that we thought of dying, but that we always like to rest unless the game is flying. Behind it stood our little force, none wished it to be greater, for every man was half a horse and half an alligator. Oh Kentucky, the hunters of Kentucky, oh Kentucky, the hunters of Kentucky. They did not let our patience tire before they showed their faces. We did not choose to waste our fire, so snugly kept our places. But when so near we saw them weak, we thought it time to stop them, and could have done you good, I think, to see Kentuckians drop them. Oh Kentucky, the hunters of Kentucky, oh Kentucky, the hunters of Kentucky. They found at last was vain to fight when they. You get the point. But
Kentucky, Kentucky.
it's catchy. So like the use of catchy songs was huge. You know, you hear that song once and you're gonna freaking sing it all day. So you can see that Jackson was really playing up his role as a war hero, trying to, you know, build up his public image. And you'll definitely see the contrast between this and the song that the official song of John Adams' campaign. It's actually pretty similar. So I want you to think about when you're watching this next video or listening to the next song, think about how similar that is to the ad that we watched at the very beginning, that described every political ad ever. You'll see some pretty striking similarities. Little Nellie who's coming, little Nellie who's coming. So you see what I mean? Were you guys able to listen to the lyrics? It's very
Yeah,
different.
I looked up the lyrics.
You're not voting for John Quincy, you're voting for the devil, is essentially
Yep.
the route that he was taking. And clearly did not work for him. So, but moving on from that, so those are examples of the songs that they used. Essentially, their campaign ads. And we already mentioned Jackson's use of rallies and parades. Another aspect that both John Quincy and Andrew Jackson used were handbills. John Quincy Adams is a little more infamous for his, they're called coffin handbills. And if you actually look at pictures of them, they'll have a line of coffins at the top and a big chunk of text at the bottom describing how Jackson is a war criminal for his crimes during the Indian Wars. Whether true or not, probably true, but attacking a man's military career is generally not the way to win the votes of the poor and middle class white Americans. So that kind of bit John Adams in the butt. Jackson, on the other hand, his handbills were very short on text. They are very illustration based, which made them very easy for illiterate voters to understand and to read. And they've spread across the country like wildfire and gained him massive amounts of support. All right. So essentially that's the birth of populism. Because of his ability to gain the confidence and the votes of poor and middle class white Americans, Andrew Jackson was elected. And pretty much in every election since, we have seen bids to try to win the popular vote. That's why people care about the popular vote. Before Jackson, there wasn't really that much concern into it. But now people care about what the average American needs, what they want, and cares about winning their vote. And so that's the real significance of this election. And all right, so the next thing I'm going to have you two do your own Googling and research into, we're just going to, just for the sake of brevity, we're going to do Joe Biden. I want you to look up his Facebook feeds, his, what he tweets, his campaign ads, those sorts of, how he uses the media to try to market himself to average American voters. And I'll let you guys collaborate amongst yourself. And I want you to answer a couple of questions. I want you to tell me who he's really trying to target. Who is he really trying to win the support of average Americans? Or is he just trying to, pay lip service? So is he spending more time attacking his opponent? Or is he spending more time promoting himself? Or is it a little of both? Like you guys both said you would try to kind of aim for when you're running your own campaigns. And really, how does their use of media seem to shape their appeal to lower and middle class Americans? And I'll give you a couple minutes. We're kind of starting to run short on the time limit here, so I'll give you, we'll say, just a couple minutes, and we can probably just do the discussion while you guys are looking at it.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm on his Twitter, so, and he is just really saying we need to come together, that he will, you know, help build a better economy, that he wants people to get out and vote, he wants to advance racial equality, right?
Yeah, he's addressing issues that the average American generally cares about. The average American generally cares about, you know, being able to vote, being able to have some form of health care, being able to live their life. And there's an ad. I'm not going to play it for you now, 'cause I don't know, I don't want to eat into too much time, but I'll tell you guys to look it up on your own time, because it's actually pretty interesting, where he portrays himself as a an average American who was born in Scranton and who grew up in a working class family. He portrays himself as very similarly to as Andrew Jackson portrayed himself.
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
I can see that, and he is appealing to the common man.
Mm-hmm. Even in if you watch the debate, you can even see that. You know, where I think he mentioned several times that he was just a guy from Scranton.
Right. It was, I saw a characterization on an article headline that it was Scranton versus like Wall Street, or like that kind of or Sixth Avenue, I think, or something. Scranton versus Sixth Avenue. He's trying to play this image of me, which for a while he was known as like the poorest senator or poorest member of Congress and various other things. And you know, he's giving this appeal where Donald Trump is like born with a golden spoon in his mouth, doesn't have a care in the world, doesn't really care about you, doesn't really care about anyone else, just really cares about Donald Trump. And he's a little psycho, and that's kind of what Joe's just like, hey, I'm just one of you guys. I'm just here for all of it. And that's his appeal.
It's interesting to watch. I mean, and it's interesting how they're both attempting to appeal in the same way, where they're both trying to make themselves seem like working class heroes. I feel like Biden's probably doing it a little more successfully, but
yeah. Well, the thing is, he's on this train. This train stuff is great. Like, he's riding around on a train. Like, you're not gonna see Donald Trump on a train. And he's riding through Pennsylvania and on Amtrak. Like,
that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. You know, he's trying to make you feel like he's one of us, one of you, to make you relate to him.
Yeah, he is, and I think that's a good, and it's working, because he's killing him with kindness.
Yeah. So to keep this moving along, we are starting to get to the end of the half hour.
Yep.
We're going to switch into the last little bit of the discussion. And so now that we know what populism is, now that we know how it came about in American politics, what are some benefits and what are some negatives that come from it? Off the top of your heads.
Kate, okay, you're on mute. Are you on mute, Caitlin? Click on your thing, like maybe in the meeting somewhere. I don't know, maybe your microphone setting on your keys. I don't know, I can't hear you.
You can, hold on. You can just like type in a chat.
Now try. You reset it. I think you. Now try.
Hello?
Oh,
yeah, now we can hear you.
Yay!
Okay, now we can hear
It's
you.
my dumb headset.
Okay.
I'm just saying that the populist thing can be a benefit because people are people, you know. We have to be able, I mean, everybody has, it's humanity that we're supposed to focus on in life, you know, and I think that makes it easy because everybody has something that they can appeal to someone. Like there's things we can all connect on, period, as humans, you know.
Right. I think that populism can have pros and cons because, like, I think the issue with a populist like Trump, for example, is his base embraces him as like their life
Mhm.
in such a way that he does no wrong, so they don't criticize him. And in the same
Mhm.
way, like, I think that populism can lead to authoritarianism, populism can lead to socialism, populism can lead to a lot of things, but it
Right?
really depends on where that leader channels it and how it's being channeled.
Yeah, that's a good point that it can lead to all those things. You know, it's kind of
Sometimes
scary.
this isn't necessarily the best way to go for the country sometimes.
Right, exactly, because sometimes the masses want horrible things.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
And
I would also point out, Josh, that like even with aristocratic systems where we only let the educated vote, you can still run into the same authoritarian issues often.
you can what?
Run into the same sort of authoritarian issues.
Oh, absolutely. I
Yeah.
completely can agree with that.
Yeah.
In fact, that way I think is more likely to lead to authoritarian issues because when it's only the wealthy you have to appeal to, then what happens to the rest of the masses becomes second importance.
Yeah.
It's all about the incentive structure, and it's like what populism does is at least makes it so there is some you have to appeal to, right? It's like our current system, the electoral college, makes it so you only have to appeal to those masses in certain places, but it does
Mhm.
make them at least appeal to them and try to come up with things to appease them, right?
Yeah.
I think one of the fundamental flaws in something like the electoral college is that it only makes it so a handful of places are really where all your messaging and
Mhm.
campaign is focused on. But um, that is, it's better than them just deciding what it is for us, like in a place
Mhm.
like Russia or something, where it's like, here's your candidate, and here's some other prop to make it feel like it's a
The level of democracy
democracy.
in a
Yeah.
society, you know.
Yep.
All right.
I think
So
it
I
can.
think we're reaching the end of our time. So I think that was a pretty good discussion.
I
Um,
think so too.
you guys learn a
Yeah.
little. All right. So I'm gonna have you guys fill out the exit slip at the bottom of that Google Doc, and I guess I will see you tomorrow, class.
What?
Yeah, see, fill up. I said fill out the exit slip there at the bottom of the Google Doc, and I'm gonna stop recording, and class is dismissed. Essentially, when you guys are done writing. Okay.
Woo! Thanks, Mr. States.
Well, thank you. Thank you for.
Woo!
Good job.